Good afternoon, and welcome to the big show. I am Paul Zeise, and of course, we're here every day trying to get to the bottom of what's going on in the world of Pittsburgh sports. We've been trying the last couple of days to sort of match up our times with news, but news has not really cooperated with us from the standpoint of we're still in a holding pattern. And quite frankly, I mean, let's be honest. Nothing really significant is going to happen with the Steelers until they figure out what's going on with their quarterback situation. I got a kick out of somebody, I forget who it was, one of the 771 people that cover the Steelers in this town was saying that they had some sort of great insight and exclusive that the Steelers reached out to Mason Rudolph. I mean, who cares? Honestly, he's a backup quarterback. I'm sure that they've reached out to a lot of these guys. That's just not really going to move the needle much at all for me. I mean, they have to go get a backup. I know they have Skylar Thompson, but they're certainly not reaching out to Mason Rudolph to be the starter. And that should be, that's what's significant to me. Who are you reaching out to be the starter? And I think that's the key, as it always is trying to figure that out. And so to me, now all of a sudden we're back at a place. I mean, did you see Daniel Jones sign with, was it the Colts? So he's off the board. Basically, we're at a place now where it's Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson. And, Gerry Dulac wrote a story, hey, if things don't work out with Aaron Rodgers, the Steelers could actually bring back Russell Wilson. I mean, would there be a less enthusiastic situation than that? Bringing back a guy who you told the world didn't get along with your offensive coordinator, who you told the world you were probably moving on from, who you told the world you were going to choose his backup over him. And now you're going to try and sell the world on the idea that, we really wanted Russell Wilson back, blah, 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 blah. If it's Russell Wilson, listen, I'm of the opinion now, I'm rooting for Aaron Rodgers to be the Steelers guy. And here's why. Because Russell Wilson would be a really uninspired, boring season. It'd be another 9 or 10 win season. And it would be another season where, they go to the playoffs and lose. I think with Aaron Rodgers, they have a chance to, be 3-14 or 14-3. And I think it would be entertaining along the way. And I think it would at least in this offseason give the idea that maybe they can try and do some different things and maybe get better next year and maybe have an opportunity to, actually advance in the playoffs. All I'm saying is, at this point, given all the options that are out there, I'm actually rooting for Aaron Rodgers, whereas I think before I was probably rooting for them to stay with Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. I just feel like, to me, that's uninspiring. I mean, where are you really going to go there? Where are you going to go, and what are you going to be able to do there if you have those guys? So let's go for Aaron Rodgers, right? The other thing about Russell Wilson, again, we're supposed to forget all of the things about the fact that the offensive coordinator allegedly doesn't like him, that the offensive coordinator, him didn't see eye to eye down the stretch, that Russell Wilson and the offensive coordinator aren't on the same page in the kind of offense they want to run, that Russell Wilson wanted to change plays and all this other nonsense. There was even some talk that, some of the guys in the locker room thought that Russell Wilson was a little bit aloof and a bit of a goofball. It's amazing when, they thought they were moving on from him and moving him out, and they thought that was going to happen. Well, all of a sudden, all of these things started coming out. but now that it's kind of like, oh boy, we might actually need to sign this guy. We might need him back, we might need him back. Then all of a sudden, you're going to have to try and basically you're basically going to have to try and figure out a way now to rebuild his, his image or whatever you want to call it, rebuild his, his ability to talk to the media and his ability to sort of be taken seriously, considering you trashed the guy. I guarantee you that, if the Steelers can't make a deal, if the Steelers it's just one of these things where I feel like it's really important to note that. Like, if you don't come up with Aaron Rodgers here, you're going to have a public relations problem, I think, if you're the Steelers. I think you're going to have a public relations problem. I think you're also going to be one of the least interesting teams out there. I mean, yeah, you added DK Metcalf, and that's great. But I just don't know that you've made your team, good enough or changed it in a way that it needs to in order to really take the next step. I do think it's great that you added a playmaker. But again, if you're gonna bring back Russell Wilson, it's going to be a really, really uninteresting thing. And I think that's going to be the thing to me is what happens in the next 12 hours. Because let's face it, by about 8 a.m. tomorrow, we're going to know. 9 a.m. tomorrow, we're going to know what's happening. Aaron Rodgers is going to pick the Giants or he's going to pick the Steelers. It would seem like the Steelers are closer to winning than the Giants, but the Giants have made a lot of moves in the offseason. He lives in New York, presumably already, so he wouldn't have to move. I don't know. And then it comes down to money. Was it Pro Football Talk? Is that Mike? Who is that? Mike Florio, whoever does that, Pro Football Talk. He basically said that Aaron Rodgers is going to want 2 years, $90 million. And people are losing their minds by that. I don't know about, I'll just say this. If it's 2 years, $90 million, he's still probably not one of the 15 highest paid quarterbacks. $45 million a year. I mean, I could look it up right now real quick for you while I'm talking. But $45 million a year, if you think about it, is not that much. I mean, it really isn't for a quarterback. I mean, it's just one of those things where, if you think about it, Dak Prescott makes $60 million. $60 million for Dak Prescott. I don't know. Aaron Rodgers at 45 would seem to be a little bit of a bargain, if you ask me. So 45 would put him, let's see. There would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. So he would be about, the 12th highest paid quarterback. He would be making as much as Patrick Mahomes, which is ridiculous. But look at some of the guys that are ahead of him. Kirk Cousins, Deshaun Watson, Kyler Murray, right? Jared Goff, I guess is pretty good. Sorry. Tua is the one up there. Trevor Lawrence, I don't know. If they get him for $35 million, he falls out of the top 15. So, and Sam Darnold just got $33 million. I mean, you're paying your starting quarterback $30 million plus. That's what the going rate is. So, this idea that somehow because, you don't want to pay that much or it's overpaid and everything else. Nah, come on, man. That's what it costs. That's what it costs. But I think the big thing is, when you look at Russell Wilson, okay, what is he going to want? Probably 2 years, $60 million. That's really what it comes down, to. You've got probably 2 years, $60 million for Russell Wilson, 2 years, $90 million for Aaron Rodgers. Is Aaron Rodgers worth $30 million more than Russell Wilson? It's a good question. I don't know. I know the answer. I do. I just don't know that. I don't know that I know the answer. But I do know this. I think that if you look at, some of the things that I think a lot of people, first of all, there are a number of people that just hate Aaron Rodgers because, he's a bit of a douche and, his vaccine thing. And there's some people that think he's a, right wing or whatever. I mean, the stupidest reasons why you could dislike a guy, to be honest. I just want my guy, whoever is my quarterback on my team, I want him to be good. I want him to win games. I don't care what he does off the field. I don't care what his political beliefs are. I don't care what religion he's from. I just want him to be good. That's really as much as we sit here and talk about, I just don't want a guy like that on my team. Really? You want to talk about some of the bad guys we've had on our team? And when it comes to being sort of an aloof, arrogant, sort of kind of a douchey kind of guy. You remember what Ben was like for the first about 10 years of his career? I know that there were a lot of people that were around that basically just sort of held their noses and they rooted for Ben, and just said, hey, he's our guy, so he's my guy. But at the end of the day, I look at it like this. Aaron Rodgers early in the season wasn't very good at all. Okay? But if you look at what he did down the stretch, let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The last 10 games, Aaron Rodgers was, 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in the last 10 games of the year. 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in his last 10 games of the year. Tells me that he probably got better. It tells me he probably got better. Tells me that he probably got healthier. 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions down the stretch of the last 10 games of the year. So, there's this perception that he was awful last year. Oh, he was so terrible, and it was it. The Jets had all kinds of issues last year. All kinds of issues. He almost threw for 4,000 yards. He had 28 touchdowns, and he had 11 interceptions. And again, 7 of those interceptions came early in the season. Down the stretch, he had, 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in the last 10 games of the year. I'm not sure, if he's still got it as much as some people say that he does and all the other stuff. But I would tell you this. I think he's better than Russell Wilson. And I think he has a chance to be better than Russell Wilson. So I know we don't like him because he's kind of a jerk, but it is what it is. Bottom line, it is what it is. Anyway, let's go to my guy, Joe Lednowski from Pennsylvania Sports Midday Pennsylvania Sports Network Midday Show, and also a number of other shows. How you doing, Joe?
Good. What's up, Paul? How are you, buddy?
I'm good. We're talking about Aaron Rodgers versus Russell Wilson. It's amazing how many people are unable to separate the fact that they don't like Aaron Rodgers with what he would mean as a quarterback.
It's interesting because I'd be willing to bet there are lots of players on your favorite team that you would actually despise if you ever got the opportunity to meet them and know their politics or know what they feel about a vaccine. But I often remind people, Paul, that I think you were sort of the one that very young in my career kind of turned me towards this line of thinking that your favorite player is employed by your favorite team. And, you got to think you're really loyal to Dairy Queen, but if Burger King offers double, man, you're out. You're a Whopper maker now. So I just kind of hold that with a grain of salt. I think the perception of loyalty is foolish. Nobody would take a pay cut to stay employed while somebody that's a lesser employee at their current, job. Just remember, it is a game. You can love the game, but just remember that there's a good chance that you might not like that guy. Just cheer for him on Sunday. Don't idolize him.
Right. And to me, I don't know. I kind of feel like Aaron Rodgers is better than Russell Wilson. I just do. And I know that's basically their two options. I've had people tweeting me about Joe Milton and what's the dude that was in Cleveland, Jacoby Brissett, and all these other guys. I mean, and we had a guy here in town who was claiming he had some sort of incredible scoop and exclusive because the Steelers reached out to Mason Rudolph. Well, I guarantee you they've reached out to 90 quarterbacks inquiring who they want to be the backup. That doesn't matter. What matters is who is going to be their starter. So I ask you, I am of the opinion Aaron Rodgers, and I just read it off, his last 10 games, he was actually really good for the Jets. So that tells me he probably got healthier and, probably got his leg feeling better and legs underneath him. To me, I don't know. He had 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in the last 10 games of last season. We've seen the Russell Wilson show. I think it's incredibly mid, but I could be wrong. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think I would go maybe add another guy into this, unless something's changed. I haven't checked my phone since we started. But I would, at the very least, kick the tires on one Kirk Cousins for one reason and one reason only. What is the price tag going to be? We were talking this afternoon on my show. I think the number's like $47 million or what the cap number is. I know Florio reported earlier that Rodgers wanted 2 years for 90. I also wanted to play in the NBA. I'm still waiting to see how that works out. But, if the number is along Justin Fields' lines, I don't think the quarterback matters. Because remember, you still don't really have a running back room yet. What's your corner situation going to look like? Is Darius Slay signed, not signed? What's the status there? So to me, I think that the cheapest value would be Cousins. I've seen Wilson. I don't need to see Wilson again. If Rodgers is within reason, I can get on board, but I'm not interested in $35 million a year for Aaron Rodgers. No thanks.
$35 million, I think, wouldn't even put him in the top 20 among starting quarterbacks. That's the price of doing
but neither's he. He's not in the top 20 either. I'm not paying him.
I disagree with that. Let's look
he's in the top 18. My bad.
All right, let's talk. Let's go. Let's have a little bit of fun with this. Let's go to the quarterback contracts, right? I was just on this page, and it is interesting if you see. Okay, so here we go. Highest paid quarterback, Dak Prescott, $60 million a year. Would you rather have him or Aaron Rodgers?
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and Google what the average 42-year-old starting quarterback in the NFL makes a year, and we'll see what that number returns. That's what it matters. Because he's not going to be one and done either.
My question to you is: would you rather have Dak Prescott or Aaron Rodgers?
For the price point, Aaron Rodgers.
Forget about the price. If I had my
pick, I think I'd rather Dak.
Let's take the price point out of it. I think, okay, and I'm going to say this, and I know some people will get angry with me. I think Dak Prescott stinks. I think he's the most overrated, overpaid player in all of sports. I think you cannot win anything with him. He gets hurt a lot. I think he's a guy who basically has a few fanboys on these national hot take shows that way overrate him because he's a cowboy. I would take Aaron Rodgers right now over Dak Prescott. So we disagree on the first guy, right?
Well, I guess my question is does Aaron Rodgers come with a time machine of Danica Patrick?
I don't think he needs. Like I said, 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in his last 10 games.
What about the last 2 years?
What?
I think Russell Wilson actually has better numbers than Aaron Rodgers the last year.
Well, he might, but what we saw from from Russell Wilson is I think there's a legitimate ceiling now with him. I think one of the biggest things with him is his height. I think actually hurts him in these games now. And I also think that I don't know that he was the perfect fit for this offense. I think the thing about Aaron Rodgers he can do is I think he can make all the passes. And so to me, I would tell you, I think he's better. So you would rather have Dak. I'd rather have Aaron Rodgers. I think we can both agree Burrow, Jordan, Love. You'd rather have Burrow and Jordan Love than Aaron Rodgers, right? Right?
Yeah, for sure. The list of me saying yes is going to be a long time till you get somebody.
How about Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah.
You'd rather have Trevor Lawrence than Aaron Rodgers? I don't know, man.
Because
We've
Trevor
seen about
Lawrence
5
is
years.
Be there for 3 years.
Yeah, but we've seen about 5 years of Trevor Lawrence, and he's the ultimate guy. It's like, well, I mean, next year he's going to be good. I promise you. I mean, he's the ultimate guy who we keep thinking he's the guy at Clemson. You know what I'm saying? And it just hasn't happened. I take Aaron Rodgers over Trevor Lawrence. All right, that's 2 we disagree on. Tua, I take Aaron Rodgers 50 times out of 50 over Tua. How about Tua?
Yeah, just because unless Tua's coming out, looking like the Michelin Man to be protected. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Tua. I think
if we're playing flag football, then I'll take Tua. But
I think we would both take Goff over Aaron Rodgers. Correct?
Yep.
Okay, here's an interesting one. Justin Herbert, another guy like Trevor Lawrence that fits the profile and looks the part. I will say, I think I would take Aaron Rodgers over Herbert. Honestly,
I'm going to go Herbert because Aaron Rodgers is not the answer beyond this year.
Okay, well, let's say for this year.
You could convince me possibly on Lawrence and Herbert that Rodgers is better for now, but that's kind of foolish to sign a quarterback for 1 year.
Right. How about Lamar Jackson? Obviously, we're going to go with Lamar Jackson. How about Jalen Hurts? He just won the Super Bowl.
Yep.
I'll give Hurts I guess I would go with Hurts. Slight edge, yes. I'd take Aaron Rodgers over Kyler Murray. How about you?
Kyler Murray is one of my favorite players to watch, but, I like to watch him knowing that I don't care if he breaks in half. So, again, in the 1 year window, Aaron Rodgers, but to the Kyler Murray, to the Jalen Hurts, this is where you need a running back. And I don't know if Jalen Warren's good enough that, that you need a running back if you're going to have an RPO guy. And Arthur Smith's not running an RPO, but Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady or George Bland is going to need a running back for play action anyway.
How about, here we go, how about Mr. Massage, Deshaun Watson? Obviously, you're taking Aaron Rodgers, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Unless he's getting his Achilles massage right
now. Here's one that people keep bringing up that I'm like, you got to be out of your damn minds. Kirk Cousins. I'm sorry. This is a guy that has been stealing money. His agent is the best agent in all of sports to get this guy more than one, $150 million. I mean, this guy's made like $300 million and he's won one playoff game. And when you watch him, he's painful to watch. There's no way I would take Kirk Cousins over Aaron Rodgers.
But if he's my starting quarterback for $15 million, I'm all in on Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins. Oh, my God. All right, let me give you a couple more. Obviously, Mahomes and Allen. Here's the funny thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We had to go through 12 names of the highest paid quarterbacks to get to Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes.
Well, I don't think your list is updated yet because I think Josh Allen's $250 million guaranteed.
Yeah, that would pop him. That would actually pop him into the top 5. But yeah you're right. We obviously will take those two. Stafford.
Yep.
Stafford that's a close one. I don't know if that's as cut and dried as some people think. Then beyond that, you start going to guys like Derek Carr, Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, Daniel Jones. I mean, seriously, Aaron Rodgers to me is still one of the 10 or 12 best quarterbacks in the league.
For 1 year, I guess, but I'm not
for 1 year.
I'm not interested in a quarterback for 1 year because I guess the thing is here's the quandary they find themselves in. If it works and they win, great. But then you're picking 28th and you still need a quarter. Like at some point you have to draft a quarterback, and quarterbacks, generally speaking, don't fall to you. So one of two things have to happen. Either you then need to go out and spend a gajillion dollars in free agency, or you need to spend a gajillion dollars in draft capital to go get your quarterback. At some point, it's like the natural progress. You have to suck to get a quarterback. That's how you got Ben.
Yeah, and there's some discussion about the fact that they're going to get a whole bunch of compensatory picks, right?
Well, I guess the other thing would be that maybe, just maybe, they're going to fire off, their pick for Jackson Dart, which seems like a bit of a stretch to me because I think he's just Kenny Pickett 2.0. But, the next year with the draft in Pittsburgh, there'll be lots of shiny quarterbacks standing up there on that stage. So maybe they do sign Rodgers for 1 year, get a whole bunch of draft capital, and fire the bullet for the next.
I mean, I think with
years.
the guys that they're losing or have let go or whatever, they're going to get some compensatory picks. They put a bunch of those picks together, move up in the draft next year, and get one of the top quarterbacks next year. By the way, one name is off the list. Jacoby Brissett to the Cardinals. So he's another guy to take him off the list. It's getting smaller and smaller and smaller as we speak.
Yeah, I mean, the list is literally Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and Kirk Cousins, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if Kirk Cousins. I mean, because the bottom line is,
well, he's not yet officially been released, I don't think.
No, he's trying really hard, but who knows what exactly happened. Interestingly enough, by the way, the game's always on at Archie's. Get down to Archie's, the home of 80-cent wings Monday through Thursday, home of the Paul Zeise grilled cheese sandwich. And when you get to Archie's, you know what? It's a great week to be there with all the basketball going on. When you get to Archie's, tell them I sent you. Tell them I said hello. Of course, one of the things we will not be watching, Joe, and we're going to get to it in a minute, will be Pitt playing in the ACC tournament because, well, they lost today, but we're going to talk about that in a minute. Couple other things with respect to the Steelers. Najee Harris, interestingly enough, signs a 1-year deal, which probably is going to be a prove-it deal with the Chargers. Hey, let's see, in that offense what he's capable of doing. You never know. He got $9.5 million. The Steelers weren't going to pay him that much, but it's only a 1-year deal, which is a risk if you're a running back.
I've never been Najee guy. I mean, he's a career under 4 yards per carry. He's not a home run hitter. He's with the draft pick, with the salary, he's an ancillary piece. He's not a centerpiece. I don't know. I mean, I've seen speculation that Ashton Genty drops. I don't envision him dropping, but if he did, the Steelers would have to take Genty. You look at what, Bijan Robinson and Saquon and, the resurgence of the running back in terms of, being a focal piece of the offense. And especially, let's be honest, if you have an old quarterback, because, they got Fautanu coming back. Hopefully he's as good as they think he is. That the line, in theory, should be pretty good. And what if Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson only has to throw it about 2/3 of the time that they did last year because they might actually get a couple of first downs on the ground? That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world either. And, you look at, the Eagles, Jalen Hurts didn't need to be great. Why? Because they ran it for 200 yards a game. Everybody rolls their eyes like he's not great. He's got plenty of great games in him, but this year at least he didn't need to be great. He turned around and handed it off. They won.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is you can all you can always basically go and get running backs. I don't want to. I think sometimes we completely undervalue them, right? But I do think that that's a position where you can go out and find a guy that can kind of do what Najee did.
I know. I want more than what Najee did. I don't like what Najee did was
well,
enough.
My point is you're probably not going to go in the first round. And you're not going to sign one of the guys that's at the top of the free agent list. So you've got to find a guy who can at least do what Najee did, while you look for your next running back. And quite frankly, it comes down to your offensive line anyway, because that's been a big part of the problem with the Steelers is their offensive line hasn't been great. Well, guess what? Dan Moore Jr. is gone, which means for better or worse, Broderick Jones better figure it out next year.
Yeah. Now, the one name that was interesting, and it was wild because 2 years ago he was unbelievable with the Eagles, but then disappeared. I heard DeAndre Swift that the Bears would be interested in moving on from him for like a third-day pick. Now, I don't know what the money's attached to him, but DeAndre Swift and Jalen Warren would not be the worst 1-2 combo in the league by any stretch of the imagination. But again, Swift is prone to injury. Out of Philly, obviously out of that Georgia line, there's all kinds of rumblings in this part of the world that Nick Chubb is going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. But again, broken, kind of damaged goods. I don't know how much you'll pay him. And, I don't know if I would sign Nick Chubb just so he can run for 200 yards twice on Cleveland and still end up, 9-8 and get bounced in the first round of the playoffs because he's hurt again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I have a lot of interest in that. I just guy coming off a major injury, maybe, but he certainly wasn't the same guy last year that he was the year before his injury. Moving on, because we got a couple of other things we want to get to. The Pitt basketball season came to an end in most unspectacular fashion possible. I thought Pitt played terribly in this game, but at the end of the day, you can't lose on a foul that they had to go to the film to find and then put time back on the clock to make it work.
Well, what's the point of review? They go to the review to find out who touched it last. Why couldn't they have gone to review and be like, dude, we apologize. That was the wrong call. There was no contact. We're going to overtime. If the point of review isn't to fix it, I have no interest in review at all. Did you watch the end of the Robert Morris game last night? The last minute of regulation took about 20 minutes. There's constant review. It's terrible. I thought it was appalling. And then Luke Hancock, who, good for you that you're getting the ACC network, but to have the Stones to go on there in the post game, be like, well, Pitt didn't play well enough to win. It was tied at 54, and there was a phantom foul as time expired. Yeah. You saying that suggests that Notre Dame played well enough to win. Notre Dame played terrible as well. I watched that game before that. I realized they called a foul. I left there thinking they should have taken the Meanville Uniontown approach and made them both double forfeit and both get them out of the tournament because they were so damn bad.
Yeah, I thought, watching that game, I kept saying to myself, there is a reason that these two teams are playing on the first day of the tournament. And neither of them earned a bye. And it's because they're both bad. I mean, I'm sorry, that was bad basketball we watched today. I mean, it was a horrible foul, horrible way to end.
Or how about when he drove baseline and stepped out of bounds? Like, with the game on the line, he drove baseline and stepped out of bounds.
I mean, they had opportunities to win. They had opportunities, they got a 4-point lead, and then they give up a wide open three to cut it to one. I mean, to me, they had opportunities to win. I don't ever blame referees, but that might have been one of the, 5 worst calls I've ever seen, or 5 worst end of game calls I think I've ever seen in, 45 years of watching basketball.
I thought when they came back to the post game and Jim Phillips was sitting there on the stage, I thought he was issuing an apology already.
Yeah.
I mean, not only do you can't make that call, but there was no call to make. There was just no foul. You can't anticipate contact as time expires. And that's what the baseline official did. He anticipated contact that was never there. There was no advantage gained by any contact. And, the principle of verticality, the Pitt kid was just standing there and he came in over the top. It was just bad. It was just really bad, but it was sort of a symbolic way to end Pitt's season because, even in the, that final minute, you thought, kind of like the whole season of microcosm. They're going to win this game. No, just disappeared. I mean, they were, 12 and – what were they when they went to North Carolina, had that win over North Carolina? And all of a sudden you thought, wow.
They were like rolling at one point. In fact, they were what, 5th in the net rankings or something like that?
Yeah, because they had that win over Mississippi State.
And then, they basically, they just completely fell apart.
And the worst part is, because everyone's, giving all the flowers to Duke. I even saw a Twitter poll, is this Duke's best team ever? I responded, is this the worst the ACC's ever been? I mean, outside of Duke, Clemson, and Louisville, you'd have to be a diehard fan to conjure up a path for any of the other ACC teams to even think about the Sweet 16, let alone the Elite Eight or Final Four.
Yeah, and I think the other part of it is, we've talked about what's going on here with the ACC. I mean, and I wrote a little bit about it. In the last 10 years, it's if you look at what's happened in the last 10 years, obviously the last 2 or 3 years, it got accelerated. But in the last 10 years, you lose, Jamie Dixon, then Rick Pitino, then you lose Kay and Williams, and then you lose, Mike Bray. I thought at the end of his career, he was just kind of burned out, but for a long time, he had that Notre Dame program really rolling.
Hamilton, Larinaga.
You lose Larinaga, Hamilton, and my man from Virginia, Tony Bennett.
Yeah.
We just rattled off about 9 or 10 like legitimately really good big time kind of coaches. 4 who are Hall of Famers. Tony Bennett will be.
Let's keep in mind, Paul, in that same time frame, the SEC has spent more.
Oh, of course they have. But my
and
point
all
is,
those coaches that might have gone to the ACC in prior generations are now all in the SEC.
Right. Tony Bennett is probably going to be a Hall of Famer. I would think Leonard Hamilton might get there, given how many wins he has. And Larinaga, too, might have a shot. I mean, you could be talking about 7 Hall of Famers out of that group.
Yeah.
But they haven't adequately replaced them. I mean, looks like finally Louisville might have found their guy. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, he seems like he's got the program going well or whatever. Considering how bad they were last year and the turnaround, I mean, he should be National Coach of the Year, considering how bad they were last year and what they are this year. But we'll see if that's long-term or if it's just, a one-year thing. I think John Shire probably going to keep Duke, among the top 10 or whatever. But, will he go out and win, go to 12, Final Fours and everything else like Coach K? We have to let's wait and see. My point is, I don't know that you've, adequately replaced all of that coaching talent that you've lost. And now Florida State decides to go the, NBA guy, no college experience NBA guy who used to play there. Has that ever worked? Can you think of a time when an NBA guy with no college experience came to college and really won at a high level? Because I can't. And the latest example of failure of that is Mike Woodson, right?
Well, what's his name? I guess because he's been around and success is so relative, is Hoiberg and Floyd, have they spent enough time in the NBA to be NBA guys? Probably not.
I mean,
probably not.
Let's look. I mean, let me just look up.
Yeah, I just said like that. That's the thing. To have somebody that has no. I mean, Juwan Howard was a disaster.
Right. Think about it.
I
mean, and you think about Hoiberg. I mean, he hasn't won a ton anyway.
Did Avery Johnson coach in college too for a hot second?
Yeah, he did. It didn't work out very well for him. And I'm looking at Hoiberg, and his first job was at Iowa State, which was his alma mater, and then he went into the Bulls. Now he's back with Nebraska. I mean, he's done okay. I guess he's the closest that we could come up with an example of somebody.
Yes.
But to me, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Either way, that's really what.
What about
happened.
Penny? But he has no NBA coaching either.
No, and the other thing about Penny is, they cheated their ass off to get him all these players, and he couldn't win with them. And now I guess he's starting to win, so maybe he's figuring it out a little bit. But either way, Pitt has got an uphill battle here. They really do. They've got a lot that they've got to try and figure out with this program. I don't know what the answers are. I don't. And I don't know what, the future is. But I do know if Alan Green doesn't make Jeff Capel make some serious changes to his coaching staff, to some of his philosophies and everything else, then I don't know that Alan Green is the guy to take Pitt to where it needs to get to.
It's sort of funny because you look at, and we had this conversation on my show, but it may not work, but Pat Kraft is going to give James Franklin every reason to be James Franklin's fault. And, I mean, there's, we dealt with all the text messages yesterday about boohooing, because it's not Paterno Field, it's West Shore Homes Field at Beaver Stadium, but it's $3.3 million a year for 15 years, right? Like, right. There's the renovation, there's the And like to your larger point, like a lot of times the AD ends up being the fall guy because it's easy to say, well, I didn't have the NIL, I didn't have this, I didn't have that. Pat Kraft is making James Franklin either the winner or the reason. Like, he's giving every resource. And in this ever-changing landscape, like, I think you need a go-getter, and it's going to cost some hurt feelings across the athletic department. But somebody needs to say, almost like tiering the athletic department, these are the 3 or 4 sports that have to matter, and everyone else just gets to go along for the ride, because Pitt does not have the Alumni Association. They don't have the base to support all the Olympic sports like the Big Ten schools do. So, this is a conversation that we could go down for hours and hours and hours and hours. Where are the bills being paid across the board? But again, Alan Green has to have the vision for where the basketball program needs to be, and Capel's in or it's out, because now he's the general manager. Like, he might not be the general manager, but he's the president, and he is the one that is calling the shots. Obviously, he's not calling the plays, but he's got to be the guy that puts this thing on the path, or he's ultimately going to be the guy that's to blame.
Last thing, we'll get out of here, Joe. There's probably not a bigger Tiger Woods fan than me. I've loved the guy, his career, love watching him play golf. I still maintain that the 12 years that he dominated golf was probably the most dominant run by an athlete in my lifetime. What he did was absolutely absurd. The number of weeks that he was at number one, the majors that he won in a short, compacted time. The fact that he's got 81 or whatever it is, 82 tournament wins. But this latest thing, it's over, isn't it? It's time. I mean, he just blew out his Achilles or something, I read.
I mean, perspective, you golf. How do you blow out your Achilles practicing? I mean, that's your body telling you it's time. It just, and it stinks because, you think about not only transcendent, right? Because it's funny because he was the first black guy. And then when Nike wanted him to be the black guy, what did he do? He said, oh, no, I'm black Cajun. He made up that word, He was the guy that was like, this is me. I mean, he was the first stone cold killer the golf world ever had. He took on Jack. He took on racism. He brought Nike. I know Curtis Strange used to wear a Nike sweater when he won the Opens in the late 80s, early 90s, but not to the extent that Tiger made. I mean, Nike started making golf clubs because they weren't very good, but they started making golf clubs because of Tiger. Then you could take the element of pay. Think about, Google what like some of his early wins were worth versus what dudes are getting now for finishing T13. He took the pay scale to a whole new level. The TV contracts, CBS had to ante up because of Tiger Woods. He was the reason. And then now the final thing, however he did it, whether it's steroids or whatever, it doesn't matter. But the caliber of athlete that play golf on the PGA Tour now, pre-Tiger Woods just didn't exist. They were the dorky kids. They were the chubby kids. They were the unathletic kids. There's no Brooks Koepka. Brooks Koepka's playing Division II at some West Texas football school, right? Instead of playing golf at Florida State. I mean, you look at the way, there is nothing. And again, even Tiger Woods changed. I did not like the young Tiger Woods, but the Tiger Woods on the Redemption Tour that became human because of his shortcomings. What wasn't to like about, I'm going to prop my own show tomorrow, but tomorrow at 12:35, we'll have Bob Herrig, who's written multiple books on Tiger, Sports Illustrated. He's on at 12:35, working on another Tiger book. I had him on before this happened, so hopefully this doesn't change, but he'll be at the Players. But, you just think about a guy, he revolutionized golf.
Right.
Like the dunk or the three-point shot changed basketball. They lengthened golf courses. They Tiger-proofed golf courses.
Right. That's the big thing. And I guess, like I said, but it's over. I mean, his body just is telling him that you cannot play at a high level anymore. You cannot compete at the highest level anymore. His body continues to tell him. I know he's fighting through it and trying really hard to, prove that he can. He just isn't. So,
hang on. The good thing about his humble pie that he had to eat and this live, and then maybe these injuries and still this TGL or whatever it is, just maybe we might get Tiger the ambassador or Tiger the broadcaster that we never thought we were going to get beforehand.
Yeah. Well, that remains to be seen, Joe. I appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for jumping on. We had a good time as always. And, I'm sure we'll do it again soon on either your show or this show in the near future.
Appreciate you, my friend. Be well.
All right, my man. That is Joe Lednowski from Pennsylvania Sports Network. Breaking it down. I think he's nuts when it comes to Aaron Rodgers and some of the guys he thinks is better than Aaron Rodgers. I actually am warming up to the idea of Aaron Rodgers, by the way, just so you know. I'm actually warming up to it. But we'll see. I mean, if Russell Wilson is the guy, he's the guy, and, we'll see what he can do. I can tell you that would be a really anticlimactic kind of sort of end to this whole thing. Anyway, tomorrow we will do it again, as we always do. We'll get, hopefully by tomorrow, we'll actually be talking about a quarterback and who it is. So we'll know that. But until such time that we meet again, enjoy your night, stay out of trouble, and, be well.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.